going forward?
Woo. I'll start from the back. I'm concerned about the 76ers, even though I would have them on the list. And the reason why is I worry about Joel Embiid with the rules in the NBA. When you get into the playoffs, they are not favorable for a big guy, especially as far as getting fouls called at the end of games. The games are slowed down, so it's more of a half-court game in the playoffs than it is up and down. So I worry about that. And they don't have the shooters around LeBron that I like. The Lakers, I don't believe that the Lakers, because of the young players that they do have, I don't believe that they're good enough. I don't believe Ball, Ingram, I don't believe they're good enough for LeBron to go there, him and Paul George. I don't believe that's enough firepower. I don't believe they're better than Houston, San Antonio, and or Golden State. So the Rockets, I believe that they're real. I believe there will be interest on both sides, a great deal of interest. But the Cavs, because they hold the product, they have him there now. I like the assets which they got him at the trade. I like the commitment of Dan Gilbert committing to pay that astronomical luxury tax year in and year out to have a winner on the court. And these memories for the next third of the season into the playoffs, I believe they can have a strong influence on LeBron because he's from Ohio. He came back to Ohio, and they still have a chance to win a world title this year. So Cleveland should be the favorite.
So here's the thing. I almost can dismiss the Lakers in my mind. I think that it's the place he's least likely to go of the four we listed, and it's the place I think he would have the hardest time winning. Because as Chris mentioned, like LeBron plus Paul George, unless Brandon Ingram makes an enormous leap and Lonzo Ball makes a big leap, and they have some other key acquisitions that they would almost assuredly have to shed Luol Deng's contract in order to do, and nobody wants that contract. They can maybe stretch provision him, but the Lakers, to me, are a couple years away from being a couple years away. So that doesn't make a ton of sense for a guy who will be going into year 16. Philadelphia is, to me, the most intriguing. It is something Chris brought up months ago when people were really focused on the Lakers, and I was more focused on the Rockets. And the reason you mentioned Joel Embiid, I'm not trying to take too much from the All-Star game, and I understand it's an exhibition. But at the end of that game, when they tried to isolate Embiid defensively on guards and go at him, what I was seeing visions in my head of is, okay, hold on a second. If this guy does have that defensive ability out on the perimeter, and I talked to a league executive yesterday that when I brought up the All-Star game, the first name out of his mouth was Joel Embiid in those sequences, that if he does have that type of defensive ability, then the small ball stuff doesn't work. Because the whole idea of the small ball is you're five, you can't keep a five on the court to hurt us on the offensive end, where he could just back down our guy. But because he can't guard on the defensive end. If Embiid can, then that is an intriguing team. The lack of shooting is problematic, but we have seen shooters, especially in their later years, tend to follow LeBron where he goes. Houston, Philly is a real thing to me. And I think Philly has the best chance of LeBron extending this window to 16, to 18, 19, if he wants to play to year 20 because of the youth. The only caveat I have with Houston is, while next year, CC, I think they'd be the best fit for him, Chris Paul, like, everyone's not going to age like LeBron is. And Chris Paul's an undersized guy. He will be going into year 15. How well will his game age, I think, is a real concern for LeBron moving forward.
Well, the thing, look, if he was to go to Houston, they have 3 ball handlers. So with Harden being the youngest, LeBron, he can take time off of Chris Paul handling the ball. So him and they can do that for a long time together. As far as the 76ers, I just worry about the post play. It's so hard. You don't get any advantage in the NBA. You covering it on a daily basis. You see that. Like, post play is not rewarded. Like, when you throw the ball into the post, man, you can bang that guy as much as you want. So the inability, that's why Daryl Morey and them, that's why they have the analytics. That's why they shoot the 3, because of the lack of efficiency that you can have throwing the ball in, and the changing in the rules. You know, if they were going to reward the guy for good in-post play, good inside moves, then yes, I would look forward to that. But I believe the dark horse in this, you're talking about playing year 15, 16, 17, 18, San Antonio Spurs. who does it better than Popovich. So for me, the team not on the list, I believe, is a real possibility. And I believe it's more real than Los Angeles, him going to San Antonio, because of the draw and the respect of the coach.
Nick, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on San Antonio, because as you mentioned, Greg Popovich is probably not a more respected coach in the league. But how do you, we know LeBron James's personality.
Yep.
We know how dominant he can be in an organization. How do you feel like those two would mesh together?
I think Pop's the one coach he would defer to. I think Pop's the only coach in the league that he would fully embrace as far as what you say we are going to do, as opposed to trying to be co-coach, as I think he's been. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I think David Griffin, last week, I watched a number of interviews with him on NBA TV, and he said that's one of the things about LeBron that people get wrong. Like, is that he's always on the phone, he's always in the office, he's always hounding me about decisions. He said LeBron is not that way. Do we keep him abreast of some of the things that we do? He said, but that is something that people give LeBron, and it's not necessarily accurate.
Well, I think those are two separate things, because David Griffin's talking about from the GM's perspective as opposed to the coach's perspective. I believe, and I've heard the same thing, that LeBron is not the one trading players. LeBron is not the one saying, go bring in this guy. But as far as the offensive system you run, I think LeBron is the leading component of that. I think they are running LeBron's offensive system. Would he do something different in San Antonio? I think he would. I also think San Antonio, if they were to have a chance to get LeBron, I think they would, in short order, call New Orleans and say, Kawhi's not happy here. You guys are worried Anthony Davis isn't going to stay there. And Anthony, a one-for-one trade there, and then Anthony Davis and LeBron in San Antonio is interesting. Now, Vegas doesn't think it's a possibility. Vegas says Detroit has a better chance of signing LeBron than the Spurs. And one last thing before we break. I didn't mention Cleveland. I think it is very simple for the Cavs. I think if the Cavs win the title, they keep LeBron. If they don't win the title, they do not. I don't think LeBron, even though Gilbert's spending the money, wants to sign a 4-year Supermax contract, giving all the power to Dan Gilbert. I think the only way he stays there is if they do win the championship this season.
All right, this conversation is going to continue for quite a while. Coming up, though, we got a special guest.